Good morning. Good morning. This is Damien Calmet, and this is Now with Damien Calmet. Christmas is almost here. We're not on our set today. Everybody wants to be home for Christmas. Before we start our talk today, which is going to be about the gift of faith, do you realize that right now there's a Buddhist somewhere that is chanting their chant? Do you realize that there is a Muslim that has their prayer rug rolled out? There's somebody lighting a candle in a cathedral. There's somebody doing an ancient prayer in the jungles of Africa. And there's somebody in some great cathedral kneeling, saying their prayers, connecting with spirit all across the world, all across the universe. We tend to think of spirituality or religion as a part of life on the back burner. We get caught up in our career, and we get caught up in money, and we get caught up in competitiveness, and we lose our joy in this. We need to learn about spiritual intelligence. There is no such thing as finding or achieving success that is sustainable over time. You attract success based on who you are and the values and character you bring to every interaction you have. And before we really get into our talk today, it's been a hectic week. Let's center ourselves for a moment. Let's take a deep breath. Let's ask the God of many names to calm our spirits. And while we're doing this, I would ask that you bring a special friend of mine into the light and love today, Dr. Sharon Stroud, my teacher, my mentor, my friend. Let's bring her before the throne of God today and ask for a spiritual touch, healing touch for her. And as we go into a moment of prayer, anyone that you can think of that comes to your mind, just mention their name. And so it is. And so it is. So what is faith? Interesting question, huh? Faith is a spiritual substance that is on the inside of us, and it can either grow or it can diminish. The main verse that people use in talking about faith in the Bible is from Hebrews, the 11th chapter, the first verse. It says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen." Faith operates on the inside of us. Faith is not belief without proof or belief despite the evidence. Faith is a complete trust or a confidence in someone or something. That trust is built over time as that someone or something proves over and over that they are true to their word. So, this year, it's been quite a year for all of us. There's been more suicides, been more overdose in drugs, been more crimes, hate crimes, been more shootings. How can we talk about faith and talk about God and talk about you, talk about me, when your home's just been destroyed by a tornado and the flood's coming the next day to wash even the rubbish away? You have no place to live. You have no material substance. Where is this faith? The COVID-19, the variants. Thought we'd be through with that by now. What's going on? What can we believe? What can we not believe? Every time we turn around, we put our hope and our trust in something or somebody, to only find that it's not the truth. It's half-truth. You know, I was watching the news, and one of the ladies in Mayfield, she said, "Oh, God saved our home." And I thought to myself, so did God choose the people across the street that their home would be destroyed? How does this work? And how does the God thing in faith work? And I begin to look at my own life, and I begin to realize what I'm going to share with you is that when we come to the planet, to this earth, we come here to be the expression of God, the expression of love on this planet. And when we come here, there is a measure of faith that is instilled in each and every one of us. And that comes from the Godness. Now, you that listen to me all the time, you hear me say the phrase Godness, because God is not a man, God is not a woman, God is a creative force, a creative energy that is bigger than us and yet is part of us at the same time. It is a connectiveness, a universal consciousness, a mindfulness, a God and love. It's the same word. So when we are separating ourselves and we think of spirituality back on the back burner while we're putting our humanity on the front burner, we're doing ourselves disservice, because the ego self, which ego edged God out, the ego self is opposed to the spiritual connection. We are spiritual beings that are having a human experience, a humanity experience at this moment. And we are having a connection with our humanity and our spirit. The ego wants to drown out the spirituality part so that the humanity can take over into doubt, confusion, limiting beliefs, judgment, hatred, etc. The spiritual being who we are is all about loving each other and all about justice for each other and equality. The spiritual being that we are is the God I see in you, and you see God in me. Then we understand there's just one of us standing here. There's simply one of us in unity. That is the spiritual principle. Now, the way that I see faith is this, on a 1 to 10 scale. 1 being that measure of faith that everybody has when we come to the planet. And we begin to grow our faith. Now, the Bible says this. Jesus says this, that if we have faith the size of a mustard seed, that we can move a mountain. What do you think you could do if you had faith the size of a golf ball or a baseball or a basketball? So this means that we don't need more faith. We need to increase the growing faith that we have. You know, a mustard seed is one of the smallest seeds. And it just shows us that that faith can grow. But how do we do this? Our faith has to grow by connection with the universal spirituality. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about dogma. I'm talking about each one of us connecting with spirit. Whatever your spiritual practice is, having a spiritual practice. Every single day, I begin my life with a moment of meditation. My spiritual practice connecting for the day. When I go to bed at night, my spiritual practice, I take half an hour before I go to bed, before I go to sleep, and I let go of any negativity, any negative thoughts. You know how I talk about the ants, automatic negative thoughts, getting rid of the ants that might be hanging over. Because since everything is energy, that energy creates a space that chokes out the faith that we have and keeps us from growing and learning and being strong like we need to be. And during the day, I take time to just simply take a deep breath, ground my feet, and say, "Dear God, let me be the expression of you on this earth." Connecting to spirit. And I just want to ask you, how many of you connect to spirit? You cannot grow in faith without connecting to spirit. Now, there's a story of Moses and the Israelites. And they're an example of us. Do you know that all of the Israelites over 20 years of age didn't make it into the promised land. And that's because their faith wasn't operating at a high enough level to believe that God could actually overcome the giants and the strongholds they saw in the promised land. That since they didn't have enough faith and belief in God to overcome their enemies in the promised land, God did not allow them to enter the promised land. And if you read in the Old Testament, they got their bones bleached out in the wilderness. And some of us are walking around with our bones bleached out, walking around in depression, walking around in anxiety, walking around full of pills because we don't believe that this God energy that is outside of us and inside of us can overcome our enemies, and that together the God in us and out of us can slay the giants of addiction, the giants of hatred, the giants of financial inequality. It's interesting that when God used the prophets to lead the children of Israel out of bondage from the Egyptians, the Red Sea opened up, the burning bush talked, cloud by day, pillar of fire by night kept them warm, manna from heaven. And then they got to a place where their faith went from a 5 down to a 1. And they said, we're going to make our own God. We're going to make a golden calf. And that's going to be our God. That's what the ego does, my friends. We make our job our God. We make our sports interests our God. We make a career our God. Our studies our God. The ego, rather than submitting to a spiritual sense and connecting on a daily basis. So I want to talk to you about a couple of different kinds of faith. I already mentioned the measure of faith that each of us have. And then there is the growing faith. And that is the faith that makes you strong. You know, and that faith, it is a nurturing faith. It is a faith, it's like you would feed a baby to grow and nurture and be healthy. It is spiritual practices that you do. Maybe it's dancing around in your living room. Maybe it's listening to certain types of music. Maybe it's poetry. Maybe it's painting. You know, so many different things that you develop your spiritual connection. It's a growing faith, and you raise your vibrations. You raise your consciousness to not just what you see, but what is possible beyond what you can see. And then there's the weak faith. Remember Abraham and Sarah? Yeah, we still live with their decisions today. You know, Sarah was 100 years old, almost dead. And Sarah had the deadness of the womb, and Abraham was 100 years old. But God intuitively had promised them a child. And rather than submit, they decided in their own thinking that Abraham will have an affair with Hagar, the handmaiden, and have a child with her. And today we have the Mideastern Arab mess going on ever since. Isaac, Jacob and Isaac, because the faith was weak. Faith has to have works. Faith cannot just be passive. There was the woman of Cana. She was a Gentile, and back in those days, the Gentiles didn't really have faith in God. They didn't believe. And this woman went to Jesus, and she had a daughter who had a lot of demons in her. Okay, maybe schizophrenic, maybe bipolar. I'm not sure what else she had going on. And she asked Jesus to help her to cast out the demons. And when Jesus refused, this woman didn't take no for an answer. And Jesus finally responded to her and said, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be unto you as you desire." She wouldn't give up. How many times do we give up? If it doesn't happen overnight, we don't see it tomorrow. Oh well, it's not meant to be. I guess I'm going to give up. There needs to be this quiet place that we center ourselves. This place where this vast creation, this vast Godness, that we know that we connect to, that we know, that we know, that we know. At this Christmas season, let it be more than just presents under the tree. Let it be more than just Yuletide. You know how many people are homeless and on the street? The other day I was in Hollywood and I got stuck on the street. I saw this tarp. I saw this little girl, maybe 3 years old, little blonde-headed girl come out from under the tarp. A few minutes later I saw her mom, young woman, come out from under the tarp. We have to have hope and faith that this is going to get better. And at the same time, we need to be able to do something about it. We need to be able to find a solution. And the solution isn't putting Band-Aids over things. The solution is letting people know that they are valued. Helping people train. Doing more than just hallelujah on Sundays. Really working with people to help them develop their faith and develop their skill and develop the talent, and helping them to understand that they're here to be the expression of love on this planet. Now, next week, we'll be coming to you on Christmas Day, which is Saturday. And I have 2 vocalists that are going to be with me on Christmas Day. We will be with you at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning for our Christmas talk. It's going to be on peace. Until then, be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Kindness is a language the deaf can hear, and kindness is the language that the blind can see.